during Christmas in Kenya, the Christmas trees were never meant to be in the house. And they still do that even today, where the Christmas tree is, they just have one Christmas tree for the whole community, and that tree is in a church.
Christmas is huge also for us. So there's traditions like, I haven't participated in this. I know my grandmother and other family members have, called a paranda, where it's basically called like an assault. Like, so you go to people's houses and you kind of like, you're playing instruments and banging pots and pans, you bring you food, and then you got basically kidnap them and they come with you to the next person's house, and then you get food and snacks and stuff, and you just keep going throughout the community until you have like this huge group of people in the paranda.
At any family event, the children must go in and find every single authority figure, elder in the house and greet them with a kiss.
I love it.
And it is extremely important. And yeah, sometimes our kids lay back too much, getting too into the American flow of, things and forget. And we hear about it for weeks. We have to distinguish the traditions of men that are not necessarily sanctified. Coming out of our upbringing and seeing everything that our parents did not make it all right. Every culture needs to bring their culture to the cross and sanctify it. Lord, show us what is of you, what is valuable, what is consistent with the kingdom, which is our primary culture now, and tell us what we need to discard, because that is our first identity as being kingdom people.
When you think about safaris and you're going to see the animals and the big animal reserves in the world, then you're talking about Kenya. There's some areas you think that, you're in the middle of Times Square.
We have our roots from St. Vincent. Supposedly there was a slave ship that shipwrecked, and those slaves that were on that ship, which came from Nigeria, they wound up going into St. Vincent, which is the island that was closest to the shipwreck. And as a result, they migrated and infiltrated that country there. And from there, they moved on to Honduras, Belize, and then from there into Guatemala. And the Spanish part of us comes from Spain, because Spain at one time, they dominated Guatemala.
I'd love to talk about Haiti. I think that it is one of the most misunderstood places. Unless you are from the island, usually your perception is of abject poverty and very few resources, very few contributions to the world. And that is so far from the truth. The diaspora, the Haitians that are outside of Haiti, form one of the most productive set of people, productive set of immigrants in the Western Hemisphere. We are doctors and lawyers and engineers.
I know my dad was very intentional about helping me to make connections between island culture and our African American history culture, like with just our African roots, so I was able to kind of put those together at a young age and to see like, wow, we have a lot of Africa in Puerto Rican culture, and most of us are proud of that, that and the indigenous culture that we have there too, so Tainos, so, I think that's one thing that I really love, and I think that, it doesn't matter what you speak or how, what your connection is to Puerto Rico, if you're a quarter Puerto Rican, whatever, that connection is there, and I see it and I feel it.
Nobody had ever called me black. That was non-existent. And so even today, I still struggle with that. It was tragic when I learned about the struggles that the African Americans have gone through in this country.
Yeah.
When I came here, I did not understand, just like John said, I did not understand that I was Black. If you asked me what I was, I'd say I was Haitian American. And that meant so much to me that it seemed strange to have to peg it down to something so amorphous, so undefined as Black. What is that?
In my My great grandfather was a slave, and the generations that came after that, they went through Jim Crow. They got lynched. That's the whole reason why my family's in New Jersey. You know, because they were escaping lynchings. They literally fled from the South because they were being persecuted, and they started their life, you know, here in New Jersey.
Instead of being judgmental, having that mindset of being, you know, a judge, you know, instead we should have that mindset of being curious, you know, to get to know the person, you know, whatever cultural background that they're from. And, you know, one of the things I've also learned too, that's always quick, that we should always be quick to understand a person, you know, before we judge them, you know, but many times we do the opposite. You know, we're quick to judge before we understand, or before we become curious about their background.